Hello everyone, it is Teresa from Teresa's Silhouette Spot in my group, Teresa's Spot for Step-by-Step Acrylic Art. Welcome, welcome, welcome to May's Paint It Yourself DIY tutorial. Hello everyone. We are doing the Fresh Flowers flower box tonight. I have my 11 by 14 tracer, but I'm actually going to paint it on a 16 by 20 tonight. You can paint it on 11 by 14. You can paint it on whatever size you want. Let me just get myself set up here. I like to throw a comment in here so then I can watch when that disappears. If anybody makes a comment when they hop on. Let me know if you're painting with me or not, or you're just watching for tonight. And we will get started. Okay, I'm ready. I've been concentrating, but now I'm good to go. So you guys might have noticed something. Let me put this on Do Not Disturb. You guys might have noticed something. Focus, Do Not Disturb. I had my lights changed. This brightness behind me is the sun. That will go away in probably about 20 minutes. But daughter number one and I revamped all my lighting and my cameras and stuff. So hopefully I've been able to tell it looks much better. So hopefully it'll look much better to you guys as well. So when you hop on, say hi. If you have any questions, let me know. You guys have a supply list and the tracer and a reference photo. And as usual, this video stays here in the group. If you want to come back, paint it again, watch it on the replay, whatever it is, okay? So let me turn you guys around and we will get started. Okay, all right, here's my 11 by 14 tracer that I'm not going to use, so I'm going to put that aside. I am doing this on a 16 by 20. I don't usually paint on a 16 by 20 in these classes because the 16 by 20 takes up a lot of room on my desktop. But I wanted this one. I think I'm going to put this one on my living room for a little bit or on my mantle. So I wanted it bigger. And you guys know I tend to paint a little fast. So this way, if I am painting on a 16 by 20 and you guys are painting on an 11 by 14, it'll work out, right? So, okay. I think that's good. I'm just using, so if you're going to notice my canvas is under here. And I'm using my fingers as a measurement. So this is the end of my canvas. I have 4 fingers. I can go this way a little bit with it and even it out a little bit more. And that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to push this up so the bottom is even. I don't have a piece of tape. I'm going to use this tape. And I'm just going to tape down my tracer to my canvas so it's not moving around. I have this rather extremely well-worn piece of graphite paper that I've used hundreds of times already, and I'm going to get started tracing out my design. Now, if you wanted to, you could use a ruler. We're going to do a faux wood background on this, so if you wanted to, then you can use a ruler. I do have my T-square here. That is up to you if you want to use a ruler or some sort, or straight edge, whatever you want to do. So I'm just now outlining the mason jars. I did part of the box. There we go. And I'm going to add these little extra lines in here for the mason jar. There's a lot of overlapping in here between, I don't know what that one is, between stems and glass and leaves, but we will figure that out when we get started, okay? Sometimes I like to take a little peek, make sure what I'm doing is going through, and it is. I missed a line there. And for the flowers, I'm just going to add the centers. I don't need to. You might want to do in the whole thing. I don't need to put in the whole thing. I'm just going to put in the centers and the stems. These I'll do, but these I'm going to do a little smaller. I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you've painted with me before. If I'm painting in an element or something round that has to maintain its shape, I will tend to trace it in a little smaller. Because as we try to fix it, if we want to fix it, if we're not happy with our first try, it will grow. We'll fix one side, then we'll hop over to the other side, and before you know it, our flower or whatever it was, hey there Angie, is 3 times the size. So when I trace certain things, noses, detailed eyes, whatever, I will trace them in a little smaller, like the dragonfly here. Actually, we're not going to even see the dragonfly, so I don't even have to do this. I'll trace them in a little smaller, because then if you want to fix it or whatever, you can. It's just a matter of that looks good. Okay, it's just a matter of tracing it a little bit smaller, so when you want to fix it and it grows to the size that you need it to be, not like crazy monster size. Okay, you put that down. I want to be able to see it in case I need to reference it, in case I'm confused about something. So I'm going to get rid of my graphite paper and we will get started. So I have out so far, I am using Bahama blue, and I have out some Bahama blue, some white, and a little bit of black. I have a liner brush, and then I have about a 1/2 inch flat. If you're using an 11 by 14, you probably want to use a 1/2 inch flat, or maybe a little bigger one, maybe 3/4. I'm using this large flat right now because I'm doing a 16 by 20, and I have a lot of background to cover. So I am going to wet my brush, only because I want my fibers to come together. And I'm going to double load my brush with a little of the Bahama blue and a little bit of the white. Okay, and we're going to get started on the background. Okay. Let me make a couple of lines here too. We want our shelf down here, so I'm not going to go past here. It doesn't matter if you get blue down there, but we don't have to. So I made a little line. This is going to be my shelf. The rest is going to be the wall. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to start in, I don't want to overblend my blue and white. I want it to be streaky. We want our background to be like faux wood color. And we want it to come right across. So you may or may not be able to see your lines. I can see my lines. I don't know if you can see your lines. I don't want to go over them. We might have to add them back in, because I don't want to go over them with Sharpie, because our jars are going to be white. So if you can't see your lines, we might have to retrace them in, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. Right now I'm just brushing on the combination of this Bahama blue and white. Every time I go back to my palette, I pick up blue and white on my brush. We don't want to over mix, because we want to have the different values in our background. And I'm just gently going back and forth. I'm using my whole arm, not my wrist. If you're going to use from your wrist or your elbow, your lines will tend to windshield wipe, and we want our lines straight. So I am moving from up here, from my shoulder. I'm not doing this I'm doing this. This way, when we have our faux wood background, our lines look as straight as possible behind us. Now we could have done this background first and then traced it in, which is probably a good idea, but then we have to wait for it to dry. But we might have to do that. If you're watching on the replay, you can hit pause, you can finish your background, and then you can wait for it to dry and you can come back in and re-sketch in your design or add it in with chalk, whatever you think works for you. A lot of times I will just put placeholders in with chalk. That's looking cool already. This would make a gorgeous sky as well. You'll see how we're going to make it into like a palette wood background. We will be adding steps to this and some details, and then it will all come together. I always say our paintings go through an ugly stage before they get to a good stage. It's just the process. That's how it works. Right? We come out of the shower with a wet head, and then we do our hair. Sometimes we do a little makeup, and then we look good and we're ready to go out. I mean, you might want to go out with a wet head and just looking so-so, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, you know, it's all a process. It's all a stage. It's all a process. I'm trying to get some full coverage back here. If you miss some white spots, we're using white, so that's okay. I can see where I'm totally missing on my canvas, so I'm going back and adding in more paint. If you miss a little bit on your white, it's okay. White's a color too, and it works just as well. I got a little something in there. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Now you can paint your edges if you want. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm going to on this one. And I usually just paint the edges right up. So I'm not going to paint this. This will be black. I like to paint, sometimes I do my edges to coordinate with the front. Sometimes I do them something totally different so it looks like a frame. Sometimes I do them something whimsy and quirky. It's up to you. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So I'm just coming in here and lightly brushing the top of my frame. A lot of times I use the canvas boards, and then of course they have no edge to them, and that's fine too. Or I paint in my art book. And then it's just page after page. Go up this last side. Another reason for me skipping around and going in the steps that I do is because while one section is drying, we can be working on another section. So there is a total process to what I do here. Okay. Still had a little bit of, some canvases are just so, I don't know, the weave is so big on the canvas that they're not real smooth and it takes a little bit more paint to get in all the grooves. And some are smoother. It depends on where I get my canvases from, and that depends on where they are on sale. I'm not really partial to certain canvases yet. Okay, so we have that. Now I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and a little bit of black, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start working on my table. I want a nice straight line there. And we want our table a little bit darker. Got a lot of grays here, but we want our table to be a bit of a dark gray. Now if you have gray and you want to just lighten it and darken it with white or black, you can go ahead. I didn't get out any gray. I have out just my black and white paint here. And I'm going to use that to do my table. I want a nice straight edge here. One there. Then I'm going to pick up some white and I'm going to start to blend down here for my table. And again, we're trying to make an illusion of a tabletop, and it's wood, and so we don't want to overblend and have one just solid gray color. We want some variations, and so don't worry about mixing your paint too well, and don't worry about having streaks like I have. You want that. You want some black, you want some white streaks in there. And you want all your brush strokes to be going the same way. When you're painting something that's horizontal, you want your brush strokes to go horizontal. When you're painting something that's vertical, you want your brush strokes to go vertical. When you're painting something that's round, you want your brush strokes to go round. That doesn't mean to say when you're trying to get full coverage and paint stuff in that you don't have, some brush strokes going every which way. But when it comes time to do the finished coat and finished layer or finished details or whatever, you want your brush strokes going all the same way. Okay. So, I need to scooch a little bit over here. Okay, so there we have our tabletop. Okay. We did our background. It's a combination of Bahama blue and white. Then we did our tabletop here, which is, I didn't even wash my brush. I just went right into the black and white. All right. Now I want to bring some of this gray in from the sides. I want to give our background a little bit of a weathered look. I have some gray already on my brush from doing the tabletop. And I'm just pulling in some gray in here. I'm going to bring it across the top as well. I'm basically just being very loose, soft touch. Not a lot of paint on my brush, almost like a dry brush. And I'm pulling in these strokes from the side. As I do it, I'm slightly wiping my brush off on the edge to give a little bit of a darkness there. And then I'm pulling in. I just flip my brush. Some of these streaks can go a little longer. Some of them can go shorter. If you end up pulling in too much gray, you can just go back in and pick up some of the blue and the white and fix that. It's totally up to you. It's just a little bit more weathered up in here. Okay? So there we go. All right. All right. Now I am going to get my T-square. And you can eyeball this, you can use a ruler, you can use another canvas as a straight edge. It's totally up to you. I'm going to make the background in 2/3, and I'm not going to measure or anything. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to put a tick mark here, and then let's say a tick mark there, there, and there. Okay. Oh, let me still use the pencil. I'm going to put my T-square down. It doesn't even reach all the way across, but that's okay as long as I have a line there. And where's my other one? Up here. And I'm going to put another one here. Okay, I don't care if it goes all the way across or not. Then I'm going to get a little gray again. So I'm mixing my white and my black, but now I've picked up my liner brush. And you can do this with your liner brush or with your smaller flat brush, whatever you're more comfortable with. And I'm going to make this look like faux palette in the back by going over the line I just drew. And if you can't pull it in one shot or 2 shots, just do what I'm doing and just add it a little bit at a time. When I get to the end of my pencil mark, I will go back and I will start from the opposite side so I know where they meet. And then the same thing over here. And I'm just making these little tiny strokes. It's the groove in the wood where the 2 pieces of wood meet on our faux background. If your line is not completely straight, don't worry about it, because we're going to put flowers and leaves and the jars in front of this. Your line, when all is said and done, trust me, is not going to make a difference. Okay? And then I just want to add some nails. And I'm just taking the back of my brush and putting 2 dots on each wood panel to simulate some nail holes. Okay? Now I am going to wash my big brush a little bit and my liner brush. Okay. I'm going to get my pencil and I'm going to come back in here where I had my box. I think the back of my box is right up here with my line, and I have my line, so that's good. So I can make this straight line coming right there like that. And again, I'm going to mix in a little bit of black with some white, but this time I want a much lighter gray. I still want it to be gray, but I want it much lighter than my tabletop. I'm going to come in here. I like to outline first. I'm adding a little bit of the edge to it, and then I'm going to pull in with my gray paint. Again, there's still variations. I want to see those variations in my wood, in my box. Pick up a little bit more black, mix it into my white over here. A little bit of black goes a very long way. And the same thing again, I'm using my whole arm. I'm not just using my wrist or my elbow, I'm using my whole arm to paint this in here so my lines stay as straight as possible. I picked up a little blue there, but I'm not going to worry about that. That'll fade right into the gray and it'll just look like it belongs because of the background. Oh, hey Carol. Sorry about that. Maybe I can remember, you can remind me to start one at 8 soon. Maybe one of my next ones will start at 8 and this way you can join in. But don't forget, you can always watch the replay. Okay, so there's my box. Okay, now I'm going to pick up a little bit of black only, and I want to add a line coming down this side, and a line coming down this side. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the gray up there on the blue background. I just want to pull in a little bit of black from the sides. Give our box a little bit of shading, a little bit of texture, a little bit of shadow. I'm trying to be very careful. Like I said, a little bit of black goes a very long way. Okay? And then I'm going to, once again, mix up. And like I said, if you have gray that you're using and you want to make your gray darker or lighter with the white or the black, you can. We want our tabletop to be the darkest. We want our box to be the lightest. And then we want the back of our box to be somewhere in the middle. And now I thought I was going to be able to still see my jars, but I can't. So we're going to have to go back over that. I should be able to line my tracer up right where I need it because this box is pretty big, and fill in what I need. And again, we want our tabletop to be the darkest. We want the front of our box to be the lightest. And then we want the inside portion of our box that's back here to be like medium. There we go. Then again, I'm going to pick up a little bit of this black here, and you can do this with your liner brush or with a flat brush like this. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just adding in a little bit more black right here so we can see what the front of our box is, and then where the back of our box, or the inside of our box rather, begins. Okay, and there we have it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, all right, let me wash that out. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I always forget this. I'll do it now. There we go. Okay, a little sip. Right, I'm gonna grab my heat gun for a minute. I'm gonna dry off my box. As long as this part is dry, I'm good. And it is dry because that's what we did first. I'm going to grab my tracer and my graphite paper. And I'm going to trace my jars in again. So I'm only going to put my graphite paper on the top part of my painting. I'm going to line it up. My box is a little damp, so I'm going to line it up right there. I don't want to pull it all the way down here. And then I am going to take this and line it up. There's my box. There's my box. I would never or rarely say you want to line up your tracer again. But when you have such a big element like this, like a box, and you can basically see where the lines are, and you're lining up your tracer to the bottom of your canvas, you can do it. Okay? So now I'm going back in and retracing in my jars. And my flower centers. On top of these mason jars or ball jars, they have the, what are they called? Threads for the lid. And I just want to put the centers in for these flowers. I'm going to just put the big center in for my sunflower. These flowers I'm going to trace again. They're kind of roundish, but you don't want them to completely round. They're faux roses. And then I'm just going to pull my stems out where I want my leaves to be. I'll just do this leaf over here. And I'm pretty much doing the same thing I did the first time. And let's make sure, yes, I can see it. Okay. Let's check this side. I keep my hand here, I hold it down, and I can see it. All right. Okie doke. All right. Let me get a little bit more white. I'm gonna grab my liner brush. And I'm going to outline my jars. I'm not going to outline the whole thing, and I will tell you why in a second. And don't forget, our jars are sitting down in this box. So we want to bring them down into the gray area. I'm only doing the background because we need to add our stems, and we want our stems to look like they're inside the jars. So our stems are going to be in front of the back of the jar, but behind the front of the jar. Does that make sense? So the only part of the jar I'm doing right now is the back rim and the sides. I'm going to add the details with the threads after we put in our stems. And because they're mason jars, we can do our lines nice and thick. Now I'm going to switch to my smaller brush. I'm going to put out a little bit of this moon yellow that I have. We're going to use it for the centers of our daisies, and we're going to use it for our sunflower. I'm going to put out some magenta because that is the color of my roses over here. And I'll wait on my greens. So I'm going to pick up, oh, what got down here? Pick up a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and I'm going to do the centers here of my daisies. I picked up white because yellow tends to be a little translucent, so if I pick up white with it, it will not be as see-through. Okay? Alright. Then I want to pick up a little bit more white, and I'm going to add the center here of my sunflower. I have a little bit, you can use some burnt sienna, or you can use some brown, some fawn. I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna and add it in here to the center for my sunflower. Now when we do our sunflower, we want our sunflowers petals to have points. I'm going to pick up my yellow, pick up a little bit of white. I want to lay my brush down at the edge. I want to add a lot of pressure. And I want to pull and turn. Now I have enough white in my brush. I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to put a lot of pressure on my brush, and I'm going to pull and turn. We want our sunflower petals to have a point at the end. We can paint them in by doing this, and then filling them in, and that's fine too. Okay? I can make a petal out to here to a point, a petal out to here to a point, and then fill it in. And fill it in. Or, like I was just showing you, we can rest it here and pull it out to a point. That one was a little too white. Let me pick up a little bit more yellow paint and fill in the rest of my sunflowers. Okay, so that we have our sunflower, just the base coat. We have to add details to that. We will get to that. I'm gonna wash my brush. Back to my white. Now we're going to fill in our daisies. Our daisy petals are round. So you can do a daisy in two different ways. You can do a daisy by starting up here, squishing in your brush, and pulling into the center. All petals for the daisy go into the center. And I'm squishing in my brush and I'm following up into the center. Or you can do the daisy petal almost like we did the sunflower petal, but you want it to be, you want your petals to be rounded at the end. Whichever way you do them, obviously I'm not doing that because I'm showing you guys. You want them to be wider at the end and round at the ends, and you want them to match. Now, mine don't match because I was showing you guys both ways. So whichever way you do it, you want yours to match. You can do it the way I did it there, or you can do it the way I did it here. But like I said, either way, you want them to match. And it's okay if you get a little yellow in there. I need one more little one in here. Okay. I'm gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna go back. Now I'm gonna go to my magenta. And I'm gonna paint in these crazy circles here. They don't have to be exact. You want them to be a little bit off. I am going over the line I painted. I'm painting over the sunflower. It's okay if my flowers overlap. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to put it in a second coat. We do not want these perfect. We're not going to use anything to trace them with. We're just going to put in the base coats, and then I'm going to go back to my white. I'm going to pick up this brush with a little bit of white, and I'm going to start putting in these little bit of these comma strokes. Pick up some more white. I'm going to put in, start in the middle. I'm going to work my way out, putting in these comma strokes, and now my flowers are dark, they're white, and they're pink. Again, the center. And then last but not least, and as you work, your white starts out really bright, and then you pick up some more, and you start changing the colors of the flower. Okay. And I'm going to wash that brush. Then I'm going to put out both my greens. I have Hauser Light. Nope, yeah, Hauser Light. And then I think I have, yeah, this is Evergreen, a really, really dark green. Let me get my liner brush again. Pick up this light green, maybe add a little bit of dark in there. And I want to pull in my stems. So there's one, there's two, there's three. Because we have some leaves going on in here that are coming out on certain sides, so we have more than, like there's just the one sunflower, but I'm going to add some up in there, so now we can add in a stem here too. I'm going to add in some baby's breath up in there when we get done. So I'm just putting this in here. And I'm adding a little bit of like branches off of it, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that later. These are what we call little fillers. Okay? And we're going to have in here some leaves coming out the top up here. Give our painting a little bit of height. We're going to have some leaves coming out here. So there's another stem. And then I'm going to paint in all these stems. And this is why, like I said, I didn't do the whole jar, because I want to put the stems in, and then we're going to put the lines in front of it. And I'm using a mixture of both greens here. I have them crossing over a little bit. This one needs a fix. And they come all the way down because our jars are sitting in our box. So now we have our stems in. We have the base coat of our flowers in. Oh, one stem missing. I have this one up here. All right. I'm gonna go back to my flat brush. And we're gonna start adding our leaves. I think what I'm gonna do here, I think I wanna bring my sunflower in front here. So I went back, I picked up a little bit of the yellow. So up here, my sunflower is behind this magenta one, but over here I wanted it in front. So I went over that pink flower and brought it in front. Okay. Wash my brush. And now we're gonna get started on some of our leaves. So I'm gonna pick up both greens here. I have both colors on my brush. And these leaves down here we want to be more of a football shape. So I pick up the light green, the dark green. And then I'm just gonna fill them in with the greens. If you have too much of one color, go back and pick up the other color. Okay. And we want these, like I said, these are pointy, they're football shape, they're just like a regular old leaf that we drew when we were kids. Football shape, pointy on one end, pointy on the other end. Pick up a little bit more dark, so we have some variation in there. And there we go. Okay, that's one set of leaves. Now up here, we're gonna take the two colors again, but here I'm just gonna give a smush. I'm gonna give a smush. And yes, that is a technical term. We want the light green, the dark green. We're smushing our brush till we get to the stem, and then we're pulling up. And then those have more of a round look to them. Okay, which leaves are up here? Oh, I almost dropped my water. Okay, up here now, we want the football shape again. So I'll pick up light, pick up dark, fix my brush, and up here we're gonna go back to the football shape. When I do that, I'm doing a frown, I'm doing a smile, and then I'm filling it in. I'm doing a smile and a frown, frown, smile, and filling it in. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of dark, and I want to put a big leaf in here. So in here I'm just adding in one big dark leaf behind the sunflower. And I'm going to fill it in. And then we have one big leaf over here. This one I kind of drew in before. And just fill it in. Again, I'm adding a little bit of variation. If I have too much light or too much dark, I'm going to go back in with the opposite color to fix my leaves. Now while we wait for our stem to dry, I'm going to go back out to my liner brush, wash it really good. And now up here, I'm just going to, oh, it's not dry. I'm going to pick up white without putting my arm in the paint. And I'm just going to start tapping. Tap out here a little bit, tap in and around the stems. And this is just like a filler. Maybe we have a sprig of baby's breath up in here. Give it a little bit more height. We have the stems in the middle, and I'm just tapping with my liner brush all around, filling in the top here where I have my stems going. Okay. There you go. Now you could use these filler flowers, these baby's breath, and these leaves on other florals that you might paint. You can do one of these mason jars with just 2 or 3 daisies, or just the roses, or just the sunflowers. So now while I have the white on my brush, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start adding in the, what are they called? The threads? The threads of the jar. Okay? They're going over the stems. That's how we have the illusion that the flowers are in the jar. The stems are being covered with the threads on the top of the jar. Now you could paint your jars complete and then just go back in and go over the stems with white if you want. It's totally up to you. I like to do it this way. I'm also going to add a little bit of highlight to our jars while we do this. And then I want my smaller brush. And this is almost like a dry brush. I'm going to get a little bit of white on it, just a little bit, not too much. And we're going to give it an illusion of glass just by dry brushing in some white that curves with the glass but goes in front of the stems. Isn't that cool? Okay, let me turn over my step-by-steps. I write down my steps for you guys because this way I don't forget anything. Okay, should we do our lettering or our dragonfly? Let me think. Maybe we'll do our dragonfly. So now you can either get your tracer out again, or you can freehand it. I'm going to freehand it. Wish me luck, you guys. I'm turning, turning, turning. Okay. All right. I'm going to get some black. I'm going to do one flat oval like this for his head. I'm going to fill it in. Then we're going to do a longer portion like that for the body. And I'm going to fill it in. And then we're just going to make a series of circles that get smaller. And then I'm going to fill those in. And there's our dragonfly body. Oops. Okay. We'll let him dry a little bit. Now we could go in, you can put flowers on here. Mine's dry. You can put flowers on here. You can put whatever word on here you want. You can use a stencil. You can use the tracer that came with the art. You can make something up. You can put your last name. You can leave it blank. Whatever you want to do is totally up to you. I'm going to come in here, and first I'm going to add in fresh cut. So you guys have heard me say this before. I am not a letterer, although I'm learning how to letter, and I am having a surprise for you guys coming up in June about lettering, so stay tuned for that. But I am not a letterer, and if I was, I would not be a letterer with a brush. The only thing I know is that it takes practice, and when you do brush lettering, you have to do each stroke separately. It's not easy to move a brush and have it control in the way you want it to. Sometimes you have to do one side, then the other side. Like the S, you have to go down and then come up. The R, you have to go down. You're always lifting. So I could F-L-O-W-E-R-S, 7 letters. So I could, I'm going to find the center. I could do this in script, or I can keep going in print the way I am, and I'm going to keep going in print. Now, do you see what I did there? I'm not getting out a ruler, I'm not measuring. I counted my letters. I figured out almost where the center was, and now I'm working my way backwards, and then I work my way forwards. The only problem with this, and believe me, I've done it, A, it's not perfect, and B, you run the risk of spelling the word wrong. But I'm okay with that, because it's just paint. You can paint right over it. Like, I probably should have moved my O over a little bit, but that's okay. I gave you the whole disclaimer about how I'm not a letterer. And if I was so concerned, I would use a stencil. I am going to pick up a little bit of water to put in there. I want my black paint to move a little bit better. See, and when I come back for the S, I have to go down and reverse. First cut flowers. Could have been better, but it's okay. I'll take it. All right, wash my brush. And I'm going to start adding in a little bit of white highlights, and then we have to do our wings. So I'm going to come in and I want a white highlight on my leaves. I like to put them on all the same side. You can put them on the bottom, you can put them on the top, wherever you want. Wherever you put them though, that's where they should continue. Okay? I want to put some white dots in here for the center of my flowers. And this is what I mean about when we add the details and our painting goes in stages. It's these little details that we come in at the end and add in that really make a difference. I'm going to add a little bit of highlight to my stems. Maybe a couple of light white, nice and bright in here on my flowers. Just a couple. Not going to go back over the whole thing, just that nice and fresh white. I am going to pick up a little bit of black and add it to these centers as well. I didn't even wash my brush. I went straight from the white to the black. Tapping it in. Come over to my sunflower and tap in a little bit of black, and then go back to that burnt umber or the brown or whatever I used and tap that in as well. Our sunflowers tend to have a little bit of a darker center, right? And I'm going close to the bottoms of my petals, so my petals get pushed to the back and the center gets up to the front. Let's get some fresh black. Okay. Fine, I'm going to wash my brush again. We want to give our dragonfly some eyes and then some highlight in each section. Okay. Then we're going to do our wings. Now the dragonfly on my tracer has pointy, almost leaf-like triangular wings. I like these better. So I'm not using that tracer. I like to make these little rounded wings, like in my, have you guys seen my dragonfly kit that I have? It's the same thing. And I'm filling them in with white. We want our white to remain a little bit translucent. So I'm only picking up a little bit of white, I'm brushing it off, and then I'm coming in here. It's not going to be as stark white as some of the other white or the white on the flowers. We want to be able to see a little bit of the blue through here. We want our wings to be a little bit translucent. Okay, and then back to my liner brush. I'm going to take the black. If your black is getting dry, add a little bit of white to it. You don't want it drippy, 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 but you want it to be able to flow a little bit. See how that moves? See how easy it is to do that? We want that. we're going to come in, and I'm just going to add in some veins to our dragonfly. And these are just like leaves. So you want to cut the wing in half. You don't want totally straight lines. And then you want to add some skinny, wiggly lines for the veins in the wings. And then I just add a little bit of black over the white to finish my eyes. Take a little bit of black. I want some black here and here. Add through the glass a little bit. Put a little down here. Make this line here a little darker too. Maybe this one too. There we go. All right, and then last but not least, I'm going to take the darkest green that I have. It hasn't been mixed with anything. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to add the stems into my leaves. You could have done this before the white. It's up to you. I missed the white on that leaf. I'm going to have to fix that. See, just those little details makes quite the difference. Get the white here. Add it to that. And I think we're good. I think we're good. So, thank you, everyone. What do you guys think? There it is.